We are almost there. Orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. 3 things to expect from the Broncos in the 2025 NFL Draft, Mace. Let's count them down.
A new starting running back, a future starting defensive lineman, and a pass-catching weapon. Those are things I expect from the draft. I also expect at some point a little bit of chaos. I wouldn't be surprised to see a day 3 trade that involves a veteran player coming in, because we've seen 2 of those in previous Sean Payton drafts. But hey, here we are. It's Draftmas Eve. It's like Christmas Eve.
Yes. Leave out your milk and cookies. I don't know. What do you leave out? Leave out your milk and cookies for Milk Hyper? Your hair gel for Milk Hyper? I'm not sure.
I didn't put any product in, but I guess maybe I should have. Maybe that's what I'll do tomorrow. I'll put some product in for Milk Hyper.
In honor of Mel. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. We will talk about it all and then some. Busy few days ahead of us. Exciting few days for everyone involved. And let's talk about things to expect. Now, starting running back, starting defensive tackle, or future,
future not this
starter,
year. Not this year.
Defensive tackle in the first 2 rounds. Which one's first?
I think it'll end up being running back still.
Okay. If
I had to make the projection, I'd say Broncos stand pat, pick O'Marion Hampton.
I think that's probably the wise projection for this year. Depending on how this thing is going to shake out. I am currently, and literally looking at my phone currently, checking in with people around the league. And my first mock draft will be out. If you were thinking, my only mock draft, if you were thinking Walter Nolan at 20, he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone. So, like, if you're thinking defensive tackle, and there's a few, Kenneth Grant, there's some people that think Mason Graham could fall a little bit, not to 20, but Mace, I'm with you. Here we are 24 hours away. I'm thinking it's just Hampton. It's staying put, and it's Hampton at 20.
And as we've said, I think that's probably the outcome that would be the most satisfactory in terms of, like, across the board team building, right? And what I mean by that is you don't have to give up future assets. I mean, you could try to make the bold move. You could stun everybody, and certainly it would be exciting in the moment. Boy, if you moved up to 5 and got Ashton Genty, the rush you would get from that, oh my, and it would be a heck of a show we'd be doing on Thursday night, no doubt about that. And Ashton Genty would be exciting. But then you'd be sitting there, and he might be great, no doubt. But you'd probably be looking at a crater in your draft capital, not just in this draft, but probably in next year's draft as well. And yeah, we know next year's draft probably isn't going to be as good as this year's draft, but the team building process never stops. It's never a constant in terms of what players are and how they're evolving. Players get injured. Needs change. Things are fluid. Something that you think is solid today will not be solid 12 months from now. When we're talking about a draft, there is a unit, a spot on this roster that you think is bedrock right now that 12 months from now, you're talking about stocking up at again in the draft. So that's a reason why you don't want to start being willy-nilly with your draft capital. And that's why if you could get O'Marion Hampton without sacrificing any future draft capital, ultimately that's the prudent move here. And I think the best outcome for the Broncos in this draft.
Yeah, and Wade Skywalker, appreciate the name, in the chat room says, have you heard anything about trade up? George Payton calls everybody.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, Mace, and I'm not the first one to say it, so nobody should be shocked. But in just circling around with my people, Ashton Genty's going to Jacksonville. So don't think that you're going to get him. And the Raiders were not going to take him anyway. I know that some came out today and was like, hey, everybody, I heard the Raiders aren't going to take Ashton Genty. we've been telling you that for a month on this show. It's 5 Jacksonville, and I think, and I'll tell you off air exactly, and everyone will see my mock draft tomorrow. I think I have the first 7 picks nailed in this draft. And Ashton Jeanty, I love him. I want him, but I believe Jacksonville is not going to move off that pick, and they are going to take him at 5. So the trade up thing, George Payton calls everybody.
And it would be a fascinating pick for Jacksonville if they do end up going with Jeanty at 5, because James Gladstone is very analytically inclined. Taking a running back is a very fascinating move for an analytics first GM in his first draft.
Mm-hmm.
So it also tells you, I think, how even the numbers people are looking at running backs a bit differently now.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that the data is changed, but the game has changed a little bit in the last few years. Since passing in terms of its efficiency peaked in 2020, it's been on a decline the last few years. That has something to do with it.
Yep. And I'm glad to see it. What up to our guy, Nick Kendall, by the way, who's saying hello in the chat room.
Hey,
Nick, one of the good guys out there, that's for sure, in Mile High Huddle. When we look at running back, tell me you have an old take without telling me you have an old take. When people are like, you don't take a running back in the first round. Where's my GIF? I have the Andrew Mason GIF. I need to put that on screen because that's what that is. You don't take a running back in the first round. What? Huh? Like, you take certain running backs in the first round, and there's maybe 3 that go in the first.
Well, there are unicorns. I think Jeanty's a unicorn. I wouldn't take Omarion Hampton 5. I really wouldn't take him 10 either. I think 20 is about right sized for him.
Yeah, people say you don't take him in the first, though. Like running backs in the first, and I think that's just old.
But I'd say, I mean, it's an interesting discussion. There are some who take Travion Henderson at 20. I think Travion Henderson is right-sized about 30 or 35. And that could become a discussion at 20. I think the sweet spot for Travion Henderson's a bit further back than 20.
Yep, and I think that he goes in the first round. If current buzz is to be believed, the Chiefs, who want a certain offensive tackle, we'll see if they can move up for him, and then the Commanders, who like Travion there as well. So there's an opportunity, and we'll see how many backs. I think if you go, maybe even 3 tight ends in this first round, maybe Mason Taylor. There's a lot of buzz around him.
Mason Taylor is going to sneak into round 1. I say this, I'm afraid, because there's a trade down scenario for Mason Taylor that if the Broncos didn't pick until pick 34, if they trade down with the Browns and pick and were picking there early in the second round, Mason Taylor being there early in the second round would tickle my buying bone greatly. I just don't think it's going to work out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep. So we'll be looking elsewhere for that tight end and defensive tackle. We have that conversation about who it could be. If that one's first, I believe it's Hampton. You do as well.
Yeah. Actually, to talk about players and buzz, there's more buzz about Harold Fanning Jr. dropping and being around 3 tight end. See, this is another thing. Like, if
he should have been that already. Not to cut you off, Mace, but for anyone putting him out higher than that, he should have been a 3rd or 4th rounder anyway.
But that's actually fine. Like, I mean, if Harold Fanning Jr. at pick 85, I think would be lovely from a Bronco perspective.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's almost the perfect spot for him, based on if Terrence Ferguson's gone, you're going to have a choice of like Harold Fanning, Gunnar Helm, really good tight ends to choose from there.
All of a sudden you're looking at that 85 pick, and that might be a nice sweet spot for your tight end who now with Evan Engram, you can bring along more deliberately. That tight end can play 15 to 18 snaps a game. You can work them in. You don't have to rely on them to a great degree. But if you make a trade down with Cleveland and you can pick up an extra pick or two on day 2 this year, then that gives you some flexibility. You can, go tight end, go receiver, go D-line. You can start crossing off all these items, then get your extra running back on day 3. Also, that's if maybe you do your 2 running backs on day 2 in that instance. Maybe Tez Johnson is your receiver on day 3. We'll come back to Tez Johnson here because Bo Nix is talking him up when he gets the chance.
Yep, and they're asking him about him for good reason, and he's telling them about him. Now, I'm going to ask you something deep and personal. Is that allowed on Draftmas Eve?
Depends what you're going to ask. I reserve the right not to answer.
You plead the fifth. When we introed the show, starting running back, nod my head. You said, future starter, defensive tackle, nod my head. And then you say pass catching weapon.
Yes.
Now, I know there's been a lot of buzz about the Broncos could move up for a wide receiver. I personally don't believe that. Anything is possible. So if they move up for a wide receiver, don't at me, bro. I do not believe that's going to happen. I think it's Hampton at 20. But you said pass catching weapon.
Yes.
Why weapon and not tight end, especially coming off of our Harold Fannin, Gunnar Helm tight end conversation? I think a tight end is in the mix. I do have a wide receiver in my dream draft scenario. You saw it at denversports.com. But that was a 6th round wide receiver.
Yes.
You seem to think it'll be earlier than that.
Well, I said in the draft, I didn't specify. And also, I didn't specify position. I'm giving myself some flexibility and some latitude here, Cease. That's why.
Do you think wide receiver could happen earlier than day 3? Let's just put it at day 3.
I think it's possible.
Okay. Is Tez Johnson the right call there then? Not that he isn't a fine player and great chemistry with Bo Nix and everything that we have to say, because it's true. But Sean Payton likes trees.
He's not a Sean Payton. He's not a Sean Payton type of receiver. But then again, look at some of the guys the Broncos have brought in and talked with. Luther Burden's not a Broncos type of receiver, correct?
No, not at all.
Matthew Golden is not, or Sean Payton type of receiver. Sorry.
Right.
Matthew Golden is not a Sean Payton type of receiver.
No.
Like Tedero McMillan is a Broncos type of receiver. Like that's or Sean Payton type of receiver, a template Sean Payton receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Prototype.
Emeka Egbuka, that's a Sean Payton template.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to go down someone they have talked with who would be early day 3, potentially, Isaac Tesla from Arkansas. Big, lengthy, catches balls in traffic. That's a Sean Payton receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He
might last to day 3 with Tesla there. And he's a freak too. I noticed about some of the receivers they brought in. What's Felton? Maryland. He's a Terp, right? The Terrapin.
Yes.
They brought him in. He's freakish. Tesla's freakish. Don't burn his car down. Like I like the fact that they're bringing in some freaks.
Yeah. And then a guy who's not freakish. He's somewhere in between. Broncos haven't had him in personally. The guy, if you go to my piece on wide receivers at denversports.com, my sleeper, and a guy who was also Jeff Legwold's 100th player on his list of 100 is Nick Nash out of San Jose State. Another guy who just catches everything. Like if I kind of put together like my draft and said, okay, they added a receiver on day, like round 4, like to me, like, okay, a round 4 wide receiver to come in, be in the room, I would draft Nick Nash. Another guy who just, like, you put him out there, he catches everything. Like, you get kind of like Tez Johnson's like, okay, this guy's just getting open all the time.
Get him out there.
Of course. And the other thing on Nick Nash that's interesting, sort of like Devon Vele, overaged. He's going to be 26.
Yeah.
And that's good. So that means you're probably talking about value because there are some teams that are going to look at that age and cross him off the board.
Mm-hmm.
So I like, and I like that as well. I'm not afraid of the age. I'm looking for value.
Yeah. Look for the value, and value matters in the draft in the first 3 rounds. I had mentioned Derek Harmon a little bit. There are some medical concerns, and I'm not sure how the Broncos would look at that. You know, when you have Bo Lowry, you can be like, "Man, we can fix anything. We got Bo Lowry." But there are some players out there. You know, I had heard some stuff about Colson Loveland. You know, he's not going to fall past 14, by the way. The Colts are going to take Loveland at 14. So you're not going to have the choice of Loveland or Hampton.
Oh gosh.
At that time, I'm not even sure Ibuka would be there, Mase, because the Dolphins are kind of flirting around wide receiver, which is kind of the Lions draft strategy from years ago. We can just keep adding wide receivers.
Let me give you a number on Derek Harmon. Sorry.
Okay.
Among all the interior defensive linemen last year, college football, this is like 470 plus with at least 100 pass rush snaps. Derek Harmon second in percentage of pass rush snaps that resulted in pressure on the quarterback. In percent, 16.7%.
I believe he had 55 pressures. The next closest defensive tackle with that prerequisite number of snaps had 19.
Yeah.
19.
Insanely consistent at getting pressure.
Right.
And another guy that, even though defensive side, you know, that they called Bo in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As a quarterback, but Bo knows everybody who was on that Oregon roster with him. Anyone there, they're going to call Bo in just to say, hey, what do you think of this guy?
Right.
Yeah.
It's smart. It's smart. Yeah. It's what you should do. And if you're the Broncos, you're going to have that resource, and that's what you're going to utilize. So I like it.
Yeah. And if Bo says, hey, I like Derek Harmon, probably Derek Harmon got a gold star next to his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you look at that and you figure out what's going on there. And then again, medical checks. If anybody slides, not named Shadur.
Yeah.
That's a whole other show. You know, why didn't they take anybody? You go, okay. Sometimes there's medicals that we just don't know or we hear very little about, Mase.
Yeah. We hear after the draft.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty common. And inevitably, like if there's an unexpected slide, like the thing I put together tonight is the composite big board, which is like I take about 8 to 10 big board rankings, including mine, Jeff Legwold's, Daniel Jeremiah's, Matt Miller's, Mel Kiper's, etc. I put them all together, and then I just get the composite average from each of them to get it. And that's what I go by over the weekend when I say, okay, who's kind of the best available at any one time. Inevitably, there'll be, a guy that's like 50th or 60th, and they're sitting there when you get to pick 150, 200, and they're still on the board. And 90% of the time that player dropped because of an injury that we didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you definitely have things to look out for and to watch for, what to expect. Running back, defensive tackle, pass catching weapon.
Running back is the free space on the board of what we know about the Broncos draft, because George Payton said they were drafting a running back.
It's really the only thing, and Sean Payton has to love this, George probably too, Mase. Nobody can really peg what the Broncos are truly going to do. When Ian Rappaport says, I think they might move up for a receiver, and he just said that's what he thought. It wasn't any sort of report.
Yeah,
be clear, just complete guess from Ian.
Guess, spitballing, crap,
but
nonsense.
When people say that, that's why people attach to it. You and I go, no, I mean, anything's possible. But with the Broncos, it's like, other than running back, I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to take a tight end, a running back. I think they'll take a corner. If that was a fourth thing to expect, Mase, I would say there's a corner coming. And maybe that's your decision in rounds 3 and 4 of you've got a corner you like and a pass catching weapon you like, tight end or receiver. And maybe that's the decision George Payton has to make. That would be my fourth one if we're to open up just a little bit.
Yeah. Corner. I mean, you know what? I didn't even say punter. I mean, they're looking at punters. I wouldn't be surprised if they selected a punter late, but it's not to the point where it's a definite that they take one. I just know that they've been looking pretty closely at them. I actually think punter is a greater likelihood if they make a trade and a trade involves some exchange of picks that has them picking in round 7.
Okay.
That's when I think you'd see the Broncos add a punter.
That's when I'm texting you about a punter, and I'm looking at Dane Brugler's beast. How does he like these punters?
Yeah, I have a. I've got a list. Look, I've told
stopwatch.
I've got my 5. I've told you my favorite is Jeremy Crawshaw, but I've got my 5. And if they do get one, I will give you the rundown. Yes, you'll sound smart on the radio. I'll back you up. You'll be okay.
Yeah, I'll sweat for a little bit till I get that text from Mase.
Yep.
About a punter, but yeah, this team is solid with the ability to be really dangerous. On Saturday, whenever we do the Saturday show, and we will do a Saturday show, I might be at a buddy's house, but we will do it. Just know I want this team to feel dangerous. This is the type of draft where the Broncos go from like, hey, they're a wild card team to, oh, bleep.
Yeah. This is, look, honestly, if they get Omarion Hampton Thursday night, I think we're saying, oh, bleep, no matter what happens Friday and Saturday.
And don't they go in concert as well? You know what I mean? Like, whatever they do on Thursday, Mase, I'm really not going to lose my mind until I see Friday's picks.
Yeah.
Because I think everything's in concert. If you can get a great defensive tackle, even third round Jordan Phillips, whoever you want, give me a name. We'll talk about him, right? Deion Walker, whatever. Like, if you give me a running back, a defensive tackle, and pass catching weapon in the first 3 picks, the order, I don't need to see the order. I just need to see the names at the end of Friday.
Yeah. The thing that'll make me feel comfortable about this team being dangerous right away, it's knowing who the running back is. And then the pass catching weapon, it's okay, how quickly are they going to be up to speed? Because if that weapon is Harold Fanning Jr., that's where my question to George Payton that I asked about the guy who's ready to contribute right now, but maybe has the lower long-term ceiling versus the one who needs the longer runway, but has the higher long-term ceiling. That's where it comes into play, because I think he talked about defensive line, but you could literally be having that discussion, Gunnar Helm versus Harold Fanning Jr. in round 3 at tight end, because I think Gunnar Helm probably helps you more today.
Right.
Harold Fanning Jr., who is only 20 years old, there's a lot of upside, not just because of his skills, but because of how raw he is and how chronologically he's got a long way to go. That's intriguing. Even though you're a team that fancies yourself in this window, that I think is worth investigating. And clearly they felt Harold Fanning was worth investigating because they brought him in for a 30 visit. And some of those 30 visits are about, hey, we want to know more about a teammate. Respectfully to Bowling Green's program, they weren't bringing in Harold Fanning to get an opinion of another Bowling Green player. That was about Harold Fanning.
They like him. Yeah, they like him. For good reason. They should.
Yeah. He is one of the most intriguing, interesting prospects in this year's class. There's a reason why we've been talking about him a lot in the last 3+ months, because the skill set, what he brings right now, it's so different than other tight ends. I mean, the fact that you might in year 1, more of his snaps might come at fullback than tight end. But by year 3, he might be Julius Thomas. Think about that for a moment. Those of you who were watching this Bronco team closely 12, 13 years ago, he might be Julius Thomas down the seam for you. And I don't say that willy-nilly. He might be that kind of target in the red zone. You got Julius Thomas round 4. You might get Harold Fannin round 3. But you remember, now some of this was because of the high ankle sprain. Some of it was because he was relatively new to the sport, was a basketball player at Portland State, as well as a football player. It took some time for him. He needed a runway, and then his runway got blown up by the high ankle sprain that he had there as a rookie. Took a minute for him to be ready, but boy, oh boy, when he was ready for a couple of years there, the Broncos had a red zone weapon, the likes of which they haven't had from that position, at least for a short burst.
Have
Harold
they
Fannin
and tight
Jr.
ends collectively scored 24 touchdowns since Julius Thomas? Because he
Ooh.
had 24 touchdowns in 2 years.
I'd say they've probably reached
10
that
years?
point, but it's tight.
Yeah, it's 10 years.
It's probably close, but yes, I'd say there's enough time to where they've reached 24 tight ends, I reckon, but that's probably closer than you'd like to admit. And I mean, yeah, okay, he runs funny. I don't care that he runs funny. He gets from A to B.
Antonio Gates ran funny.
Yeah. I don't care how they run because they're getting from A to B in an acceptable time. It's like, I didn't care that Phillip Rivers had shot put mechanics when he threw. The ball got out of there quick, and it got out of there in a hurry. The problem, like Tim Tebow had a funky delivery. The problem is the ball got out of there slow.
Pull.
Right? Yeah. Phillip Rivers had a funky delivery, but the ball was out of there like that, and it was accurate. That's
just
why.
Quickly to Joseph, who says he's not Antonio Gates. Yes, we know he's not Antonio Gates.
Not today.
We're just bringing up that Antonio Gates had a different stride as well.
It comes from the same conference.
Nick did bring up
Gates didn't play football. That was the weird thing. Gates went to a school that played football, and he didn't play football.
And he didn't play football, right?
He got on the radar in March Madness because Kent State made a run to the Elite Eight that year.
Right. Our buddy Nick said in the chat room, think Jonnu. It was Jonnu Smith, and I was like, well, I think Delaney Walker, who was Jonnu Smith before Jonnu Smith, and followed him there. So Delaney Walker, a couple old heads like us, Mase, we can talk some old Delaney Walker. I loved him coming out of college
too. Jonnu Smith, Florida International.
Love Jonnu coming out of college. We probably saw him one of those games we go to.
We did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go back and we'll look at the notes.
Yeah.
Oh, and Gabe in the chat room's like, would Bo Nix say anything bad about anybody? Well, with Derek Harmon specifically, Harmon was with Michigan State when Bo was at Oregon.
Okay,
but he can talk.
Sorry, I thought they crossed
people.
I thought they crossed. My bad. I thought they crossed over for a year.
Well, then the thing is, players are going to be honest.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So he's gonna know people in that program, and so you can ask him about Derek Harmon. And while he wasn't a teammate, Mase, you can say, hey, I talked to the defensive line coach and he really loved what he did or whatever. And you would be surprised. Now, Vaughn didn't say anything bad about anything. Vaughn loved Paxton.
Vaughn loves whatever's there.
Everybody's friend. Right. Right.
Vaughn's a pleaser.
Don't you think Bo Nix would tell you the truth?
Yeah.
You've been around Bo enough. I don't think he pulls any punches, do you?
You know better than anybody. You asked him about lining up under center.
Next question.
Senior Bowl, and you got, you messed with the bull. You got the horns there.
I got the stiff arm. I got the horns from Bo Nix. I like that.
You got, you got the, you got brushed off. You got kind of like a response like Bo Callahan would give in draft day.
You're gonna watch draft day tonight, aren't you? Draft night.
Yeah. Draft day. I watched draft day on draft night. I was saying this to a friend today. It's actually it's a good piece of filmmaking, even though it gets a lot of the draft details wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a pretty solid piece of Hollywood filmmaking. Although I've got an idea for a sequel that's kind of rattling around my head that was kind of that needs some work. Gotta Got to work with a
Work
consultant.
it out. Work it out. Blake Snyder beat Sheets right there. Save the Cat. Best screenwriting book ever. So yeah, write the treatment. Work it out, baby. Work it out. Just get the conflict. Get all his lost moment. You'll be good to go.
But get more of the details right. Like the thing I would say is like the unexplored part of the draft process that draft day didn't get into is what the sequel would focus on. Like
I would focus on the birthday party.
Oh gosh.
I kid.
Okay, so like so here's the thing. The birthday party would probably be at this place called the Nitty Gritty, because it would be at the he was at the University of Wisconsin. Be at this place called the Nitty Gritty, which is a bar that's right across a bar and grill right across the street from the Wisconsin campus. Like you could walk there from the basketball arena, the basketball and hockey arena. And I could see things getting wild and hairy there to where they had to throw everybody out. If anyone showed up, of course. Did anyone show up at Bo Callahan's birthday party?
Right.
Yeah. The $100 bill in the back of the playbook. Yeah.
So many things.
Yeah. You could do a sequel like 10 years later. You know.
Okay.
I think that's where you'd start, like 10 years later.
Kevin Costner got fired, and then he learns from his mistakes.
I don't think he's fired.
You don't think he's fired? Where's the conflict then?
No. I think he's actually. I think you know what. I'm gonna give credit to a friend who put this idea in my head. The analytics guy that like is there that's around.
Yeah.
That's the GM. Kevin Costner's like the president of the team.
Okay. All right.
Like he did well enough to where he moved up, but not well enough to where the Browns won a Super Bowl.
Okay.
So in other words, the Browns are still chasing something, but he's still around, but he's more like kind of in the father, grandfather type mentor role. But like that guy, that analytics guy. So think of it like you've got like a James Gladstone type of GM now.
Young cat.
Yes.
Analytics.
So now you've got that, but this guy's trying to figure things out as well. And I think, and to me, like this would explore more of the combine process, the gathering, trying to figure out they're trying to figure out quarterback basically. And they're trying to figure out who the right quarterback is.
Okay.
And it's the analytics guy maybe realizing that it's not all about the numbers when trying to get the right quarterback. Or learning about the traits that make a great leader in the process of this whole thing. So I think there's actually a lot that you can explore with this, and Sonny kind of helps him figure it out basically.
Just work it out. Work it out, babe. Work it out.
The conflict is in the organization, like because there's gonna be like one can't miss quarterback that everybody wants him to take. There's gonna be another like Bo Callahan type that everyone wants him to take.
Analytics love him.
Yeah, this is like this is the guy. Like everyone is saying, yeah, it's very similar. Everyone's saying you have to pick this guy, and it's like he is the analytics guru, the darling. But like there's this other one, but there's gonna be some warts on him, right?
But Bo busted, Bo Callahan did, and then he went and he like had an alcohol problem like Ryan Leaf, and then he went to coach high school, and he's at like some little 8-man program in California, and there's this one scrappy quarterback, and so Costner calls up Bo Callahan, goes to his birthday party.
Yeah, Bo's involved somehow.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Bo is somehow involved in getting them in the right direction. Because there has to be a Bo Callahan redemption arc.
Maybe Kevin Costner ended up trading him away, and then he was out of the league, right?
Well, no, Kevin they wouldn't have had Sonny Weaver Jr. They didn't draft Bo Callahan. They drafted Ray Jennings and they drafted Vontae Mack. The other thing also, you'd have to, and I believe you do this in a very elegant way. Because, of course, the actor who played Vontae Mack, Chadwick Boseman, tragically died a few years ago. I think you work that in somehow. That there was some sort of tragedy with Vontae Mack.
Okay.
Like maybe that's part of what fuels everybody there is you maybe start with that. Like maybe like Vontae Mack is like a legend, but he played like 4 or 5 great seasons and then he passed away or something like that. Like maybe you like open the film and there's like they're like paying tribute to him or something like that.
Do you remember who the Steelers drafted instead of Dan Marino? Senior sack.
Gabe Rivera.
Mm-hmm. And then he got in a car
accident and he was paralyzed as a rookie.
Yep. So you can learn from that story, you know?
Yeah.
I like it. I like the beats.
Of course, with the Browns, I mean, there'd be there's a legacy of that because, of course, you know the story of the late Ernie Davis. They made a film about him too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he won the Heisman, and they drafted him, and he tragically died of leukemia. They were going to have Ernie Davis and Jim Brown in the same backfield. Probably would have been the greatest 2-man backfield potentially in the history of the game, and it never came to be. The Browns' history is like it's a damn Greek tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it is.
You got to fix it in draft day 2, the second round.
Yes. Draft. Oh God, the second round. You know what? I want to get like some of these GMs back. I want the Jaguars GM. You know, the Jaguars GM who got all the second round picks. Like, I want those second round picks to have like become a bonanza for them. Like that trade worked out brilliantly for them, even though it looked terrible at the time. Like 2 of those second round picks became Hall of Famers. Like, hey, Sonny, man, that trade, you made my career, man.
I like it.
Like I said, gonna totally redeem the first draft day.
If anyone could do it, Andrew Mason can. Josh says, Merry Draftmas, Broncos Country, Draftmas Eve. Hope everyone enjoys. We're going to have a bunch of stuff for you, so just stay tuned. It's going to be hectic.
We don't know. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen doesn't. And look, when you're sitting at 20 like the Broncos are, there are too many moving parts between them and their pick to really get a good read as to what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. We can take our guesses. We can, think we know, but like there weren't a lot of people who knew that Michael Penix Jr. was going to be an Atlanta Falcon last year.
Right.
It's the old thing that Jim Morris said. You think you know, but you don't know. So sit back, buckle up, and watch it happen. And by Thursday night, there's going to be a new player to be excited about. It's part of the fun.
We're here for you. It's Orange and Blue today. Mase, before we're out of here, how can folks help us out on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mase Denver. I'm at Cecil and Mase saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.